Hi everyone, my name is Dragana and today I'm going to talk to you about bioelectronic medicine and briefly touch upon a company I co-founded called Inia Biosciences, empowering patients to trade their pill bottle for a remote control. Inflammation is a global pandemic and it is mediating up to 80% of all diseases. We can divide inflammation in two parts. We have acute inflammation and we have chronic inflammation. Acute inflammation is, of course, good for you. It's the body's own repair mechanism. But sometimes it can prolong and turn into chronic inflammation. And this is the case in liver disease, cardiovascular disease, and many others. Our immune system can be divided in the innate immune system, the general immune system that acts very fast, and then there's the adaptive immune system that's much slower at acting. But once it has identified the germ, it's much more accurate. And both systems communicate through something called cytokines. Cytokines are signaling molecules that tell the cells what to do. And just like many diseases mediated by inflammation are treated with drugs. But drugs have several side effects, and sometimes they can even be life-threatening, such as if you're on immunosuppressant drugs. This is where bioelectronic medicine comes into the picture. Bioelectronic medicine was discovered by an accident by Dr. Kevin Tracy, who was investigating a drug that was inhibiting TNF, one of the signaling molecules in the brain. It was supposed to only act on the brain, but what he discovered was it was inhibiting it in the rest of the body. So they had a hypothesis that the brain was communicating with the body through the vagus nerve. So they cut the vagus nerve, and lo and behold, it was true. Then they had the clever idea to actually stimulate the vagus nerve with electricity, and they managed to suppress the immune system and suppress TNF in the body. Today we know we can also use ultrasound to stimulate the nerve in a similar manner. So Kevin Tracy discovered what is called the inflammatory reflex. The inflammatory reflex tells the body whether we should activate or deactivate the immune system. The brain connects to the body through the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve connects and touches almost every organ in the body. It goes from the vagal brainstem nuclei, and its signals are divided so that 80% are sensory, so signals going from the body to the brain, and only 20% go from the brain to the body. It communicates through the celiac ganglion, that is the region of the splenic nerve, that induces a release of norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is attached to a receptor on the T cells that induce a release of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine induces an anti-inflammatory response by binding to a receptor on the macrophages that activate pro-resolving mediators, the so-called signal zeros, to release cytokines. Today we know, thanks to these two gentlemen who received the Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine, that we also can use ultrasound to stimulate the nerves. They discovered that nerves both have heat receptors and mechanical receptors. And it is due to the mechanical receptors that we can use low-frequency ultrasound to set a signal and induce a little touch to the nerve that can induce an opening of channels such as piezo 1 and piezo 2. There is a lot of evidence in the literature, but this is just to briefly show you that also bioelectronic medicine has a dose response. So here you see a dose response curve in mice with rheumatoid arthritis, and it's very clear that symptoms are reduced with a specific ultrasound pressure that works the best. Not only is TNF reduced when stimulating with ultrasound versus sham in mice in this case, but many other cytokines are also reduced. What these authors found that not only can we suppress the innate immune system, but we can also activate the adaptive immune system by enhancing antibody-producing plasma cells. And this is something drugs cannot do for us today. And this is just briefly to show you that this has been done in humans in many different studies, but here we see only 3 minutes of ultrasound stimulation can suppress TNF in the whole body. There are many companies out there, and we need even more to bring this technology to the bedside table of patients. Setpoint Medical was founded by Kevin Tracy and was spun out of the Feinstein Institute, and they're today running clinical trials in humans with rheumatoid arthritis with these implantable electrical cuffs that are put on the nerve. Galvani followed not long after with a 700 million fund from both Verily and GSK, and they also are doing clinical trials in rheumatoid arthritis patients with these electrical cuffs. Second wave is using ultrasound to treat patients with COVID-19. And Enea Biosciences is currently setting up our human studies at Cornell Medical School, testing our device in a specific inflammatory disease that's not rheumatoid arthritis. And the device is connected to the patient's phone and to the physician's desktop computer, allowing for seamless communication between the two. We're raising $1.9 million in funding by September, and we're right now recruiting immunologists, device engineers, and experts that can help us in the commercialization pathway. If you have any interest, please come and speak to me after this talk. But before I end, I would like to inspire us, hopefully not to repeat history. On the picture here, you see Ignaz Semmelweis. Ignaz Semmelweis was a Hungarian physician born in 1818 and is today known as the pioneer of antiseptic procedures. He discovered at the time that childbed fever, a high risk of mortality, maternal mortality rate due to streptococcal infection into the vagina could be drastically reduced by simply washing hands. However, at the time, it was against the common medical and scientific opinion, and he was ridiculed. He later suffered a nervous breakdown and was admitted to an asylum where he died. Decades later, Louis Pasteur actually proved the scientific mechanism of Semmelweis germ theory. And he started advocating for people washing their hands, but also he was ridiculed by the community. Clearly, medical breakthroughs are more evolutionary than revolutionary. Or what? We're today no longer at the infancy stage of bioelectronic medicine, but at the adulting stage. And we need to reach maturity because we still have many more questions to answer. And we need the medical and scientific community on board to join the revolution and bring this technology to the bedside table of patients. Thank you.